backtrack my game.
Midnight, the stars are shining for you.
It's me and you, me and you.
The moonlight, my heart is asking for you.
Yo, I can tell by the look in your face just how you feel. Shadows wrap around the building like my hand around the pen. When you hear this, hope you feel like you found a gem. Hope you feel like the stars are shining for you. When you rhyme, take the time to pay respect to the legends around before you. Chillin' in the moonlight, way above 2 flights of stairs. Bitch cats be getting the cold stares. When I'm writing, focused in my chair, totally aware the energy they put out, but I really don't care. I keep them my own while they got some secrets on the phone. Hey, and guess you know it, so I tend to leave it all alone. Catch me late night, writing up in my book of thoughts. I'm making beats, you don't fall from a rookie with my chops. Me and homies used to wild out, booking from the cops. Cause a riot like a bunch of dudes moving through the shop. It's crazy how we all grown up, times change, but my feeling about this music will always stay the same after midnight.
My heart is asking for you. I hear it crying for you. In the moonlight, I start to walk towards you. When will I see you? When will I see you once again?
I'm hoping that I see you soon enough. While others sleep on you, I can never get enough.
When will I see you? When will I see you once again?
I'm sitting here wondering when will my day end, waiting for the sun to set. I'll see you in the AM. Taking rides to liquor stores, 24-hour market. Street lights passing by, looking like lighters when I spark it. Darkness shows a nocturnal lifestyle that I'm living. Write rhymes so fast, can barely even read what's written. I'm spitting, think otherwise, you must be fucking tripping. If our girl falls asleep, NPC pads I'm hitting. Think I'm obsessed? Nah, I'm just a dedicated dude, and all my late night heads is dedicated to you.
At midnight, my heart is asking for you. In the moonlight, I start to walk towards you. When will I see you? When will I see you once again? When will I see you? When will I see you once again? Just once
Hello. Is this thing on? The Earth makes its rotation.
Check it. Hi. Yo, as the world turns, the record spins. This is my life, looking at the rear view with success in my sights. Heavy ordnance. Yo, I coordinate the coordinates. My whole life's been up in smoke. I always was a stoner kid. Remembering back to school, acting a fool. Actually, it's worse than that. We're asking to lose. We weren't thinking about careers, but thinking about drinking beer. Now my music's here and there, to different hemispheres. I remember all the crazy things that happened. Before I was making money off making beats and rapping. Long nights in juvenile hall, no pencils in our cell, couldn't write no raps at all, no. Now I'm out to write till the paper's gone and make paper off the paper. I ride on, ride on. Do what you do to ride on. Life will be hard before it get easy, so strive on. Yeah, it's needle to the groove. Yeah, you know the rules. It's the record spin the same time the world does too. So many options for y'all to try to choose. Off on the side with your crew. It's needle to the groove. Yeah, you know the rules. It's the record spin the same time the world does too. So many options for y'all to try to choose. In the end it comes down to the music. It's needle to the groove. Yeah, so when the record skips, I throw my life right back on track. So bring it back, there's gonna be scratches in your record, bumps in your road. If you burn all your bridges, there'll be no place to go. These are the lessons in your life, shit that you should know. We seen examples get trite from the stories that been told, yeah. I seen it live in effect. Bitches try to go and lie in your bed, and they deny what they said. When she know you know she with another guy instead. I never made them chicks my girl, I would wind up in dead. I made music my career, none of my ex-ladies condone it. Show the kind of support system I had now, don't it? I don't even trip, cause most of them are phony. I heard it all before, it's the same.
Hey there, folks. Hopefully this is working. Glad to see that there are a few people here, and hope everyone is staying safe and staying home, and somehow staying productive through all this. Hey, we got some people in the chat already. What's going on, Sergio? Very good to see you, my friend. Let me know if you can hear me. Hopefully you can. And yeah, we're going to be trying to make some art today, or at least get started making some art and see if this whole thing works. I feel like everyone's at home and already starting to get a little bit of cabin fever, and I know when I'm in that situation, the best thing we can do is make some art and, you know, try to stay connected to our friends however we can. So I'm glad you guys are here, and yeah, I think we'll get started. Let's hop to it. I'm thinking that today, as we're just kind of getting things rolling, that I'll do some thumbnailing in 2D before we hop into 3D and kind of later streams to kind of flesh them out and make them into something real. I started doing 2D sketches to get everything started for myself a while ago. Maybe 2 years ago, something like that. I finally started actually trying to thumbnail out ideas before jumping into 3D. And I'm still not great at drawing them, but I do my best to. And I do find that, especially for practicing composition and not wasting time in 3D, that having some idea of what you're going to do, even if you don't stick to it, is a really, really efficient way to practice effectively in 3D. You know, we've all sat there and, like, you know, gone into 3D and you model something and you pan around it and you zoom in and you zoom out, and you just waste a lot of time. And so even though you're practicing, you're not actually productively practicing. So I find trying to get some 2D ideas out first lets me get into 3D and actually start working and not waste time trying to think too much, basically, because that doesn't help anybody. So yeah, with that, let's get this started. What's going on, Vlad? Good to see you, my friend. I will do my best to try and keep up with the chat. If you guys have any questions, anything you want me to talk about, or any ideas for future streams, I'm going to try and do this every day, as long as we're all working from home. I know that I can always use the break from work, and making things is my favorite way to relax, basically. And hopefully some of you guys get something out of it too, maybe learn something, or at least get to hang out with some other artists. What's going on, Shanaka? I apologize if I pronounced that wrong. So any ideas or suggestions or things that you guys would like to see in future episodes, let me know, because if this thing goes on for a while, I'm going to run out of ideas pretty quick. So any help there will be much, much appreciated. And anything you guys want to see, I want to, you know, try to accommodate that. All right, so I hope everyone is seeing me and hearing me without too many issues. Hopefully everyone's got a beverage. I'm taking instructions really, really literally these days. Staying home, staying away from other people. And my beer at the moment, it's labeled all day IPA. So it's noon here, but can says to drink. So having a beer. All right. Let's see if this works. So we're going to jump into Photoshop. And I just kind of have my little thumbnail layout here, which I use pretty frequently, at least for Instagram stuff where I'm planning on doing it in square. And again, just try not to waste time. So I just open this up every time and just paint directly onto layers. And I don't really have like a plan for today. I don't have an idea in mind of what I'm going to try and make, which I guess is kind of half the fun. But we're going to try and get this figured out. I'm thinking Kitbash 3D, for anybody that doesn't know, The folks at Kipash 3D are giving away a free kit, which is freaking rad. You can go in here onto Kipash 3D, onto stories, and bright art during dark times. And they're giving away the Utopia kit for anyone to make art out of. And so I very much encourage you guys to do that. I'm definitely going to be using a Kitbash kit for whatever this turns into. I'm not sure if I'm going to do Utopia or something else, but I encourage everyone to, spend the extra time at home trying to make something productive. And so definitely check out the Kitbash 3D post here. Check out their free kit. Those dudes rock. And we'll try to make something with it. So we'll try to do something positive, something hopeful. Not really my forte when it comes to images. At least not the Droki stuff. That seems way more like professional work with blue skies and the like. But I'm thinking that maybe we'll do something. I'm thinking maybe we'll do something that is kind of isolated, but in a positive light. I've always enjoyed my me time. And so I'm thinking that maybe that'll help some folks. Oh, Paolo, good to see you. Yes, I have a great time out in Venice. And I love teaching you, and I love seeing what all the students are going on to. That's always a lot of fun. And any other Maddie students out there, we're going to be following a workflow that's pretty similar to what I teach during my 2-day workshop out there. We're going to be drawing something and then moving into 3D and hopefully making something cool. Fingers crossed. So we'll see what happens there. So I'm thinking something maybe a bit isolated, but not in a negative sense. Is kind of what I'm thinking. There's a plenty of work kind of on my, sketchery page of isolated stuff that, it's not meant to be negative. It's just meant to say, hey, a little alone time's never a bad thing. Time to catch up with yourself. Oh, hey, what's going on? Oh, Matthew, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for stopping by. Dario, see you can. That's not your name. I know you. We were just chatting. We'll talk more about that later. Good to see you all here. All right, so let's start just kind of broad strokes and see if we can get some kind of idea of a composition. So I feel like the obvious one is to kind of start with like a house isolated by a lake. Right, maybe mountains in the distance. Generally speaking, whenever I don't have like a clear idea of what I'm trying to work on for a sketch, and I know I want to make something, but I don't know what that's going to be, usually the first sketch is the worst. But that's just kind of the way it goes. I feel like part of the process of doing stuff like this and thumbnailing in the first place is that you're free to kind of have some ideas that are bad ideas that'll lead you to better ones going down the line. And if you try to do that in 3D, you'll spend so much time making the first bad idea that then you'll either just stick with it and not go to something else, or you'll just give up altogether. Neither of which are good. So my kind of plan always when I'm sketching, especially when I don't have a clear idea, is let's just get the hand moving and kind of the brain actually looking at something to kind of start maybe generate some ideas. So this is like about as basic and kind of predictable as you can think. We have a lake, we have some mountains, we have a house, weird house structure of some sort, sitting by the shore. We're not going to stick with that, but it keeps the head kind of moving a little bit. I like the idea of there being more of a clearing. So maybe what we need is for the house to be something smaller, And again, I'm not worrying about actual forms at all for this. It's kind of like, where are things going to go? It's really trying to look at the composition on as big of a scale as I possibly can, right? Like, where are things going to go? Where's there going to be dark stuff? Where's there going to be light stuff? Is kind of the basic idea. And I like the idea maybe that we have a clearing of some sort, which I'm not sure how we're going to convey. And my gut already on this one is that the horizon's too high. But we'll, try and test it out. Maybe what we need to do is make the house... I'm actually going to go the other direction. Put the house high. Set the horizon somewhere up here. Maybe we have a big yard coming down here. If you guys are looking at what I'm drawing here and thinking to yourself, that is just fucking terrible and a bunch of scribbling, you're not wrong at all. Oh, cheers to Stuttgart, Ollie. Yes, indeedy. You're not wrong. I am not the greatest 2D artist in the world by any means or any like real stretch of the imagination. But one of the things that I tell the students when I'm kind of teaching this method is it's not really important. If you're going to move it into 3D, the important part is really only that you can understand what you're drawing. I feel like a lot of times I'll have an idea of a composition in my head, and that's for personal or professional work, and it's, you know, some beautiful image that shows everything and blah, 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 blah. And then when I actually get into 3D, I start realizing, try to actually place them within a rectangular canvas. It doesn't work, right? Because the brain's has an ability to really kind of change what you think you're seeing. The mind's eye is not a, 2D box, effectively. And so I do find that anytime I start sketching and give myself some type of visual feedback of here's what happens if I move the horizon up or down or zoom in or go wider, my brain can kind of start churning through of how we can actually start making this into something that sits into a 2D image. And hopefully by the end of these thumbnails, there's something that everyone can kind of at least see what the idea is. But the real goal in this isn't something I would ever show to a client or anything else. The real goal here is just for me to get an idea for myself of something that I think is going to work. And we'll start moving into tones and everything else once I start getting an idea that I feel like starting to work. And so now I'm thinking, what if we did house up here, way high, and then trees. So kind of a tree line of some sort. That will kind of close this in. Too much beeping. Da, da, da. Oh, that's my puppy. There might be noise for a second. I think my wife's coming home from having to run a few quick errands, unfortunately. I'm going to mute it while he is barking away, and I'll be right back, but I'll keep drawing. Okay, sorry about that, folks. Like I said, working out kinks. I had the baby monitor, who's taking a nap and is sleeping soundly, thankfully. Okay, so the idea here is that what if we did like a high tree line that blocked all this in, and then this comes down to a yard, and then we had a pool here, and then maybe we would have like a road kind of in the foreground of some sort. So I'm thinking of this as the water. So yeah, it's really just kind of like a visual shorthand, right? Like I've been obsessed for a while, and probably anyone who's ever heard me talk about composition and everything else, speed painters, and people that can communicate a lot of information quickly with an incredible amount of efficiency. I am not one of those people, unfortunately, but most of what's in the background here is concept art books, because I find it's kind of my favorite inspirational material. And the important thing to remember, if you're not comfortable drawing, which I'm not, to be 100% honest, I can't really get everything to do what I want it to do most of the time. The important thing to remember is that this is for you, not for presentation, right? And should we do it maybe nighttime? Maybe do it kind of like dusky so that the house is glowing and maybe we have lights coming up the path. That could be cool. We'll table that idea. But yeah, the important idea here is that, this is drawing for you. And so if it's messy and ugly, as long as it starts to make sense and give you an idea of what you're going to do when you get into 3D, it's probably worthwhile. Alrighty. So those of you in the chat, who is taking this opportunity to be at home and get some personal work done? I mean, can't go out, can't waste our time. Well, we can't waste our time. We can always waste our time. That's kind of the sad thing. And then what if we darken this down? But yeah, I think one of the nice things about all of this is that we do get a chance to kind of, if we can't go out, if we can't go see friends, we can keep in touch. I've been having a lot of video chats with a lot of my friends, just trying to, stay in touch, make sure everyone's spirits are up, make sure everyone's dealing with things all right. But then when not doing that, I've been practicing a lot of drawing, which you can see is not really paying off yet, but I'm in it for the long haul. And doing a lot of compositional work. Any concept book left a big impression on me lately that I can recommend. When it comes to like the concept art books, anything by Assassin's Creed tends to be some of my favorites. What I particularly like about them is that they all stay very painterly. They don't go in and kind of like render everything out to the point where you can't tell whether it was like modeled and rendered or drawn. It still stays very sketchy, but they convey these big, beautiful worlds, and the sets and atmospheres are just wonderfully done. So anything that's Assassin's Creed art of, I definitely recommend. I do look at my books from Sparth. He has 3 books out, kind of like every couple of years he compiles some of his professional work and some of his personal work, which is all 2D painting. So Sparth Structura is the name of his books. They're all particularly awesome. And I've also been looking at a lot of Ian McHugh recently, but I don't have any books from him yet. But he's got a super, super cool style. So I feel like there's something idea-wise here kind of starting to work. And now I'm going to see if I can actually get it to work is kind of the goal. And I'm kind of painting a depth mask, basically. A Z-depth pass. Or at least starting with that. But yeah, I try to look at many... as much art as I possibly can, effectively. And I try not to look at a ton of CG. To be perfectly honest. I look at a lot of photographers. I've been really digging Todd Hido for a while now. Toddo. He has some really, really beautiful work. I feel like Gregory Crutzen is kind of an obvious choice to go with. And obvious for, the right reasons. His work's gorgeous. But I particularly like photographers that have an almost painterly look to their photography. So it doesn't look actually painted, but there's kind of a abstraction to where it looks like it was very heavy-handed in post-production, which I tend to like because I think becomes a lot of intent from that. Now we're having some perspective problems, so that's not uncommon for old Mikey boy over here. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any actual books that I've gotten recently that have gotten me really excited. I recently started a manga book called Witch Hat Atelier, however you want to say that. And it's kind of like a manga version of Harry Potter a little bit. Like it's YA, it's youth stuff. But the art in it is gorgeous. Let me find one of the opening spreads. I'm really, really digging the art. Where's my camera? Super beautifully drawn. Reminds me a little bit of Blame, which is another one of like the graphic novels that I think is just absolutely gorgeously done. Where's one of the big spreads? This one might not have had any. So not a concept art book, but a beautiful one nonetheless. All right, this is already not working for me, so I think I might keep moving along. Try and figure something out here. Let's see what happens if we fill all this in. Mark that as something important by just giving it a little bit more stuff happening there. House of some sort. This is the water. And we might come back to this. Let's keep trying for some new ideas. I like that there's this kind of like big open space, but it doesn't kind of get the kind of like secluded feel that I'm looking for or hoping for. So we're gonna keep on going. Maybe we set a house up on a hill. Maybe this is like upwards. Maybe we're a little bit closer this time. Art of God of War. I have not checked that out, but as soon as this is over, I definitely will. Yeah, all the concept art books that I can find, I basically try to get my hands on, for the most part. I kind of go through binges. Where I feel like I need some new inspiration. I go onto Amazon, spend an ass ton of money. Don't regret the purchase, but think to myself, you should really think before spending all this money. And then I go on like a little pause for a little while. And then start thinking I need some new stuff again. And repeat myself. But yeah, there's nothing better than finding something new that gets you excited. Try to learn something from, or just try something new. Anything that encourages you to try something new, I'm a huge fan of. One of the things in my kind of daily practice of trying to learn how to draw things that Sparth does a lot is lassoing, drawing with a lasso and then just filling it in as opposed to using a brush. And I'm not going to try and do that for you now. Because I'm not any good at it, but it does give you these incredibly different results that you would never come up with otherwise, and then you can start using those techniques in ways that are, not necessarily expected. This could be something kind of cool. The idea here being that we have a house of some sort of structure up in the woods, kind of on a hill. We're looking up at it. Maybe there'd be a path somewhere down here. So the path kind of wraps the base of some kind of cliff-like thing. And then maybe we have some bushes and trees over here. And feels a little bit high. I need a way to get those things to ping. Okay. This I feel like could be cool. It's kind of like a much closer version of something like this. Oh, you guys can't really see where I'm pointing, can you? Something like this, only going close up to the house or cabin or something. I feel like this would be like a good one for Kit Bash's Dark Fantasy kit. So that might be an option. Maybe this is like, comes up like this. And then this would all be trees of some sort or another. I feel like I saw like a photograph of something similar to this sometime in the past couple of months. But such is what it is. Dun, 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 dun. Sorry, folks. Gotta turn more things off, I think, is what I need to do. Okay. Alrighty. Alright, so that one might be the winner. But let's keep doodling and see what else we come up with. I like the idea of that up on a hill. Maybe we try a different composition. What happens if we maybe center that house? Keep it up on the hill. That's probably a little bit too high. It's a little too high. We need to keep some room for the trees, because I like the idea that this house is kind of, that there's a tree line that kind of circles up in the top. So the idea that like it's a little clearing somewhere deep in the woods, which I guess means if we do one of these ideas, we're going to be doing some Forest Pro, which is always fun to do live, because I still find, I don't think I've ever done any big Forest Pro project without having at least a little bit of crashing. So that's always fun. That one I think is less interesting. It feels like I'm looking down on it based off of how I drew it, which is not intentional, but you know, you do what you do. That's not really how it's supposed to look. Let's try this one again. Let that catch up. All right. What happened here? There we go. What if the house... One of the things I was giving some workshops in Venice about a month and a half ago, just before things got bad over there, actually. And my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone, everywhere, really. But particularly, obviously, Italy's gotten hit really hard. But one of the things I kind of became obsessed with was this idea. I rarely ever kind of break the top plane of my images. And I got this idea that maybe I would start doing some images specifically trying to figure out how to get that to work. So maybe we do that again here and say that there's some steps, something like that, coming out. This is all kind of cliffy something or another. Maybe the steps turn again. And these cliffs keep going down. All right, and so let's go and kind of mark the steps. They would turn and go up that way. We have a little tree sitting up top there, and then these would be in the distance, which we can draw in afterwards, or make legible afterwards. And so then this would be more cliffs. can always just kind of like lighten the whole thing up and then go back in with a darker color to kind of get back the kind of main lines of the composition. It can get hard to read with all the scribbling that I tend to do. Maybe someday that'll change. Maybe not. Who knows? I do have a tendency to like scribbly artists. Derek Hess is one of my favorites. And his work, his finished work, still looks like it was sketched, which I am a huge, huge fan of. I think it's a similar reason to why I like black and white, both photography and CG, so much. I feel like the more that you can abstract kind of the interpretation of your image, the more work that anyone who's looking at it has to do to imagine the image. And the more someone imagines something that you're working on, the more that it's kind of living inside of their head, I feel like the more successful that image would be, or is. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're really trying to do, right? Is get people to imagine something that doesn't exist yet. If we just show it to them, if they don't have to do any work for it, I feel like it gets, like, okay, that's what it is, move on, next thing. So I think my kind of rough thought is that that's why I tend to like, sketchy work, sketchy kind of loose, not polished work as much as I do. And probably why I like concept artists as much as I do as well. How are we doing on time? Doing good. We started a little bit late today. I'm sorry. For those of you listening, Chop and I, the great Chop from Polymachine, and my co-host on The Wrong Fucking Question, which I know that we have not posted anything in a very long time, and we feel bad about that and apologize for it. But we are going to be doing a live show on here tomorrow. And he is currently sending me ideas of what we're going to talk about. So I apologize for my distraction. But I'd love to hear from you guys. How are you all doing? What are you guys doing to keep yourself sane and, enjoy what's going on kind of in your neck of the woods? I know that I'm here in Portland, Maine, and it's quiet. I have to go outside to walk the dog at least a couple times a day, and streets are pretty empty. No one's walking around. No cars are driving. Everyone's just staying put at home. I imagine that that's the experience that most people are having everywhere, but love to hear about it. Or, better yet, love to hear about what everyone's doing to stay positive. So I think that's the most important thing we can do right now. We're all in this one together, I think. Right now. Basically, the whole globe's on this one together. And I believe deep, deep down that we're going to get through this. One way or another, I think we're all going to get through this. It's not going to be easy, but we're going to do it. And I think keeping a positive attitude for it is going to be like the most important thing. So you're basically seeing me keep a positive attitude, which is making stuff. Nothing better than making stuff on when I'm not feeling good or when I have doubts or when I'm starting to get worried. I find if I can make something, it'll make me smile and I'll feel a little bit better about the day, which means I'll feel a little bit better about the week. And the more I can do it, the better it is. We got some people doing some personal work. Very, very awesome. Learning some software, always a good idea. Is your Arc Viz work sci-fi dystopian? Because that would be amazing. Yeah, I get that kind of calm before the storm thing. I'm kind of hoping that that the calm is the storm. That's fingers crossed. Yeah, I think that with all the uncertainty going around, I think that that's tempering moods, but not knowing how long this is going to last is definitely a challenge. I think for all of us, right? Because it means we can't really plan for exactly what we need to. Obviously, it keeps our minds kind of continuing to cycle through the possibilities and what that's going to mean for work and all that. And I think it makes it really tough. I think it's definitely a challenge, but I think that I think we're going to pull through this. I don't think that, Corona's going to get the best of all of us. And I think if we can keep the storm as the quiet, people stay inside, stay safe, stay isolated for a little while to slow this down until, the health industries can catch up with things. I think we're going to be all right. It's going to be painful for some, without question, for all of us to some degrees, some more than others, unfortunately. But I think that we can do it. I have a lot of faith in us. Yeah, I still got a couple of jobs to work on as well, which is nice, keeping me busy. And I try to keep my news intake to like a very short amount of the day. If you look at it all day long, you'll just drive yourself crazy. And I think you'll panic yourself. I had to go back like 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago. I've never been great with the passing of time, and this hasn't helped. Back before we all got ordered to stay inside as much as possible, but when it was looking like that's what was going to happen, I had to go out to the store to load up on supplies. Me and my wife have a almost 2-year-old daughter in the house. Obviously, we need to make sure that she has everything she needs. And, making sure we have beer, whiskey, the essentials, baby stuff and beer. I was in the store and knowing that I didn't want to hoard a whole bunch of stuff, just get the things that we absolutely needed. But even while I was in there, with so many people with these giant mounds of these crazy carts and the pasta section being empty and everything else, it's hard not to let that kind of panic get to you. It definitely is. And I think that, we just have to keep reminding ourselves that we're all in this together. And we're all going to figure this out together, one way or another. But yeah, it's easy to look at all that stuff and start freaking out yourself, I feel like. I'm not sure where this one came from. This one's kind of a house with everybody living somewhere up in the rocks, that kind of Southeast Asia kind of vibes to it, which is kind of fun. Don't know if I'll do it, but you never know. There we go. Let's see. I'm glad you guys are keeping positive, my friend. I think that's the best thing that we can do. I think we can stay positive, try to use our time productively, I've been trying to learn how to draw people. Maybe I'll show some of that in a later stream. I'm not good at it. But I feel like if I come out of, all of this a couple of months later and all that I've done is sat and worried and not actually, learned anything new or gotten better at anything, I'd be disappointed in myself. So, trying to take the time to do things that I think will, in the long run, make me happy that I didn't spend all of my time drinking beer and watching TV and the news. Something like that could be cool. Not really anywhere near the idea that I started with, but I wonder if we could make it into something like that. What could we do here? I'm wondering if we could do, how would that get composed? Let's pick something that's pretty close. There'll be a house up there, some kind of steps or something coming down. Who knows what will be down here? Couldn't have trees that big. I'm trying to figure out a way to kind of combine this idea and this idea together. I don't know if that's going to work, but only one way to find out. That's one of the other things that I super duper love about at least trying. Like, you can see these aren't beautiful drawings by any stretch of the imagination. But to even get like this idea out of your head and in front of you in 3D is a decent amount of like modeling and prepping and moving cameras and everything else. And usually that work doesn't end up being wasted because you can redo it, but it does mean you spend a decent amount of time in 3D, you know, twisting and turning and, you know, the fantasy art equivalent of moving chairs until things start to work. So I definitely try my best to go into 3D with an idea of a composition that I think at least has a good, starting point to it. Maybe there's like cliffs all around this. I like cliffs. Big fan of cliffs. Maybe something like that. Oh, this I kind of like the idea of. Oh, no. What is going on? What is going on? And I'm glad you're enjoying it. Version 5. What is this version 5 of? Who knows? But this I think could be cool. What if we went a little bit darker so that there's something down here? We need to work on this composition a bit more. You do definitely get into like drawing these things, and you start thinking like, oh, that's a decent amount of work you're talking about doing here. And I think I'd argue that that's a reason to work in 2D as well. And I'd love to know who out there that is a 3D artist that does at least some 2D sketching or thumbnailing or concepting. But I know that when I'm in 3D working on stuff, I tend to stick to the things that I know how to do and know how to do relatively quickly. Just because 3D can take a ton of time, and I feel like we're all pretty impatient these days. I know that I am, just in general. And so I'll make decisions based off of what I know I can successfully and efficiently accomplish. And of course, the problem with that is that means that whenever I'm in 3D, I'm kind of staying in my comfort zone, or kind of barely towing that line. And that's not, of course, the fastest way to learn or improve or anything else. So I do find that by drawing, I get an idea that might not be something I know how to solve in 3D right away, or I have some ideas and I have to do some guesswork and some figuring to get things figured out. And whenever that happens, I feel like that's probably something that's worth pursuing. For the simple reason that if you try to do something new in 3D and try to get something figured out by yourself, you learn something. Whereas if I do, an image that's the same as kind of all the other images I've ever done, or at least with the same exact techniques and workflow, it's not that I won't improve at all, but I feel like it'll be less dramatic or less drastic improvement. So I'm a big believer in getting yourself out of your comfort zone. Let's keep. What do we got going for time here? We started about 10 minutes late, so we'll go like 15 more minutes. So I think we can do a couple more sketches. I don't have one that I'm in love with yet. But hopefully we can get one. And if not, hey, we got time, I think. So life is going to go on. Okay, let's just make this whole thing a bit bigger. Take all these guys, drag them all down. Oops. Let's take those and that. Keep my little borders. Here's what we'll do. There we go. And let's do some filling. More canvases. Fantastic. Alrighty. Make sure we're looking at the right one. Okay, let's keep thinking. Let's keep looking at this idea over here. Maybe not go quite that dark. And I'm going to try a different idea. So maybe... This one might have the most legs here. Oh, I'm glad to see that you've at least had some positive results from it. I think it can definitely be frustrating. Particularly if you draw like me, which is to say messy. I know I get frustrated in not being able to like draw the thing that's in my head. But I also can't really usually model the thing that's in my head too, right? Because the thing in my head is usually not accurate to how whatever it is works. How kind of what I was talking about before with like the brain's way of constantly kind of tricking us into thinking that we see something in our head and then we try to get that figured out and it just doesn't work. I think that that's really, really easy to do. Yeah, like I don't think I would have ever ended up with something like what I'm drawing at the moment if I had just gone in 3D. And even right now, I'm still having those thoughts of, is it worth trying to do this kind of big thing? I just recently downloaded both World Creator and Gaia, which if you've used either and you have thoughts, I would love to hear them. I've only like basically opened them and played with them like a little bit in the sense of like I've moved some sliders around. But something like this I feel like would be a good place to play with some terrain generation and actually try to make some of these structures in one of those programs. So, if you guys stay tuned, I think there's a chance that you're going to see me bumbling around in one of them. Seeing if I can make something that kind of looks like this. So I think this is kind of cool. And I'm kind of thinking that like this will be like dusk time, so there's kind of like that bluish kind of haze in the air, and then we'd have these kind of like little dots of light everywhere. So I'm not really painting the light just yet. I'm kind of trying to figure out still like where everything should go. And I usually don't. It depends on the image, but I usually don't worry about painting in like lighting and all that kind of stuff. That's definitely one of those things where you can experiment and test things much more quickly and efficiently in 3D. Unless it's a case where like the lighting is a main compositional component, which I'm not really thinking of it here. I'm gonna take this one and paint a little bit more on top of it. But I kind of like where that is, and so I'm just gonna move it on over. You like World Creator? Oh, rock on. Easy, and that's always good. So that might be worth that one I spent a little bit more time within Gaia, but like by a little bit more time, I mean like 40 minutes of clicking that random seed button and trying to find some cool stuff. Maybe I'll try to make some of this in that. We'll see. Let's start to paint in a little bit more depth and get an idea of what I'm thinking here. So I do think that we kind of have a bit of light up here. A little light coming out that side. And then let's just keep on. Kind of main little focus spot here. Something like this. Some kind of like taller house in it. There's something I'm trying to think of. I got something going on in my head at the moment. I'm not sure what it is, but I feel like it was like, it's not Fraggle Rock, but it's something like I watched as a kid, where you had these kind of like creatures living somewhere in the woods. I can't remember what it is. We had something. This is trying to pull up some memory. I'm sure it'll come to me. Probably right after I finish. The way things usually tend to work out. Let's see if we can't kind of get this colored in a bit. I don't know if any of you spent much time like drawing in Photoshop, and I'm not sure where I got this advice, though it's definitely advice that I got, and not that's like something that I discovered by any means. But I was watching some digital painting artist, someone who actually makes a living from doing 2D drawing, and his kind of like big piece of advice while working in Photoshop was, at least while you're like working on like concepts and just trying to get ideas out of your head and onto the paper in front of you, don't spend time worrying too much about layers or trying to keep things nice and organized or trying to undo a lot. Try to go through and work basically kind of like as quickly as possible. And so if you paint over something, as opposed to undoing it and trying to do it cleaner or trying to set up a layer system while you're working through it, instead of any of that, just single layer, keep painting over top of it, and anytime you do something that you don't like, fix it with painting or drawing as opposed to undo. I'm a big believer that the undo has created problems for a lot of us artists. I had a professor in architecture school in a class called Painting Architecture. It's actually where I got my first Wacom tablet, and the first time I really drew in Photoshop. But it was at the AA in London, and it was called Painting Architecture. We kind of painted a landscape using various techniques. And my professor there in that class, a guy named Alex Kaiser, his biggest piece of advice, and I totally agree with it, both conceptually and also specifically in Photoshop, is that if you're having trouble, if you're not sure what to do, just merge all your layers and keep moving forward. With the sense that committing to some kind of direction and then continuing to work on it has a ton of value. And I totally agree with him on it. I think he's absolutely right. And I think we have that problem, kind of all throughout our industry, all throughout people working in 3D. I know I have folders that's like, living room A, 01, 02, 03, 04, and I have 18 versions of a living room and I saved all of those versions because I was worried I was going to mess something up and need it back, or a client was going to make me go back and do something or whatever else. And so I'd save all of these versions of my files with this kind of like constant fear that somehow I was going to do something that I couldn't undo and go back and I'd need it. And I've been working almost 10 years in ArcViz full time. And I don't think I've really ever used any of those files. I've never gone back. But I think that there's a psychological cost to that, which is that you're never really committing to a direction or a decision. You're always kind of hedging your bets all the way throughout it. And I think that we would all be well served by like really kind of training that ability to make and commit to decisions in our work. I think that it would be a positive thing for all of us. So I definitely try not to do really any undos in here. Each now and again I do, especially if I do like a line like that. But like for the most part, like if I do something like that and I don't like it, as opposed to undoing it, I'll just go back in and paint it. And there's like kind of a nice, obviously this is how you would work traditionally if you were working in oils or anything like that. But there's just like this nice feeling that everything that I do is still a step forward, even if I paint over a decision while I'm doing it. So I encourage you guys to try. And you can do it in 3D too. Just, go into 3ds Max if that's what you're using, or Cinema 4D, and set the undo state to like 1 while you're working on a project. And the thing that I found in doing little projects like that, or little experiments like that, is I don't really miss the undos, to be 100% honest, because your brain kind of shifts and says, okay, if I just did something that I really didn't want to do, it's probably not that much work to redo it. And there's a kind of a comfort in knowing that, okay, there's really no way I can mess up so much that I can't, unfuck myself effectively. So I'm kind of liking the direction that this is going. Let's maybe put in some more highlights. At this point, I'm just kind of doodling. I kind of like this one. I think I like this one the best. No, we didn't need to go that bright. I kind of like this one the best. I think that lighting-wise, I have an idea in my head of what it's going to look like, but I don't think I have the time now or the skill to really paint that. But that's okay, because I have a composition. And I like that there's kind of like, as opposed to the original idea where you had this kind of house isolated in the woods, I kind of like this idea, and maybe I'll put some more in there when I get into 3D. I like this idea that there's kind of multiple houses, and even though they're isolated, it still feels like a bit of a community. I think that there's still kind of a visual dialogue with them. At least I hope that there is. I think we'll have some lights on. Maybe these guys will get little docks. Could be cool. I think there could be something cool there. I feel like we have all the time in the world to, you know. Usually, most of my Droki stuff I make in about an hour. Or not, excuse me, not an hour. Usually I make it in about like 2 to 3 hours for the most part. Obviously, I'm not trying to talk the whole time. But I feel like with this, we might just, you know, add some trees in there. Maybe we go all out and spend a little bit more time and kind of break down each section of it. It could be fun. Luca, yes. Yes, Fengzhu is a big proponent of that idea as well. And I love Fengzhu's videos, by the way. I think he's producing a lot of like really, really good content. And even though most of it's like concept artist related or directed, and with more of a bent on 2D than 3D, I think that some of the things that he's teaching and his way of thinking is valuable for anyone that's, you know, a visual artist or CG artist. Yeah, I haven't watched this stuff in a while. Thank you for reminding me of him. Okay. Let's see. Should we try to do one more? I don't know. I'm thinking that one might be the winner. We didn't do any flipping. Do a lot of flipping usually when I'm working in 3D. Or not in 3D, excuse me. In post, I do a lot of flipping the canvas back and forth to get a fresh eye on things. And I feel like I usually do in my thumbnailing as well. But maybe I'm just a little distracted knowing that a whole bunch of people are looking at me. I'll chalk it up to that. Why not? For those of you that don't do it, it's a great way to kind of get like a fresh set of eyes on a composition. And just a new way to kind of look at your own work in the same way that, you know, when you come back the next day to a piece you've been working on, a lot of times you look at it and you think to yourself, oh my God, I can't believe I missed, can't believe I didn't see that, or I can't believe I just, you know, this image looks so green. How on earth did I not fix that earlier? And it's because your eyes kind of get tired and they get used to it in the same way that if you put on colored glasses, before no time, everything looks normal until you take them off again. So if your image is, you know, particularly green or the composition is a little bit lopsided, your brain, again, interfering with your visual system, kind of takes over and says, I'll just fix that for you so it doesn't bother you. And the end result is that you can't really look at things freshly. But every time you kind of flip it, that kind of resets the brain, I feel like. I shouldn't say it's not like I came up with that. A lot of artists use that. The old school guys like Rembrandt and all those, a lot of times when they were painting, they would hold a mirror so that they could turn around and look at the mirror over their shoulder, look through the mirror at their painting over their shoulder to do the same thing. Just to try to get, you know, a fresh new perspective and catch anything that doesn't quite look right. Luckily, we don't have to go walking around with mirrors anymore because we have our phones. And Photoshop, you can just set it to a hotkey. Super simple. So let's just kind of add in a few more blacks to kind of get a little bit more idea of what I'm thinking for this, even though I feel like at this point I'm just noodling. I think I'm pretty happy with how this looks all together. I feel like it'll be a cool image. I think that we're going to color it so that it's hopeful. I'm thinking of this as a place that I would like to live, not as some weird place hiding in this ravine. So I'll try to do something cool with it. All right, I think that might be the end for today. I think we've gone for about an hour. My goal for basically the foreseeable future is to try and do an hour of this every day. Tomorrow I'm going to have Chop on, so please let everybody know that you think would be interested. We definitely appreciate you sharing. But me and Chop are going to talk about something. in our typical wrong effing question style. And so I'm very much looking forward to that. After that, we'll probably get picked up on this. But I appreciate you guys coming by. I hope that you guys enjoyed hanging out for a little bit. And I hope to see you again tomorrow and the days after that. I hope that everyone's staying home and safe, staying away from crowds and other people as much as possible, besides the loved ones you live with. And I hope everyone's staying positive and trying to be productive. So I'm going to try and do the same and hopefully share a bit of that with everyone over the coming days or weeks or however long that is. And if you have any ideas for things that you would like me to do, I'm sure I would appreciate it. And I'll definitely try to get to it. But thank you all. I hope you all stay safe. I hope you all enjoy a drink or two, even if it's the middle of the day. And yeah, I'm going to put on a little bit of Jay Sinuous to play myself out. And yeah, I didn't put on any music today. I forgot that. Next time there will be music, at least if I'm working. So that you're not only listening to me drone on and on and on. But yeah, thank you guys so much. I appreciate you being here, and we will see you hopefully shortly. Take care, everybody. Ooh. See? Oh. No, that's only the intro, Cam. See, this is why you do the first episode, to figure out all this stuff that you didn't figure out. Sinuous will be playing us out tomorrow. For now, we're just going to end it. Thanks so much, guys. Hope to see you all soon. Yeah, be safe. Stay positive. Later, guys.